Hello, everybody. I'm going to introduce Zoe Harris now. So she was my assistant director last year at Bielsko-Biała, IH, and she helped me a ton in my first year in Poland. So Zoe Harris, she's been a teacher since 2011. She has experience in France, Guadeloupe, Spain, China, Costa Rica, Poland, and the UK. So she has led the coordination and development of curricula for young and very young learners at IH Bielsko. And she holds a CELTA, multiple IH certificates, the IHVYL, IHCYLT, IHTTC, and IHCOLT. I don't quite know what those all stand for, but yeah, no, it's very good. And she holds a NILE certificate in teaching English in pre-primary education and the Trinity certificate with a specialization in pre-primary education. She is self-described as very passionate about working with younger learners, committed to designing playful, communicative, and developmentally appropriate learning experiences that encourage creativity, collaboration, and confidence in the classroom and beyond. So, Zoe, I will give it to you. Okay?
Thank you, Mason.
Thank you.
Yeah, so good afternoon from Laos, where I am at the moment. The picture in the background is where I had lunch today. I'm not currently teaching at the moment. I'm traveling in Southeast Asia, but it's great to have the opportunity to do this conference with IH Bielsko, where I last worked. Uh, so my presentation today is about igniting future skills in small hands and focusing on project-based learning for young learners. The age group that most of the tasks will focus on will be for students between the age of 7 and 12 years old mostly, but several of them will be able to be adapted for slightly younger learners and slightly older learners as well. And the reason that I chose this topic for the conference today is we are coming, or most people are coming to the end of the school year. And so projects are a great way for two different reasons. Some of you may be coming up to your end of year exams, tests for your students, and projects can be a great way to review material for what you have covered in the previous year. And also, if you have already finished the test at your school, as I know at IHV Oscar they have, then it's a great way of doing something that is connected to what your students have learned throughout the year, but also taking things away from the textbook where it, at this point in the year, it may not seem totally relevant to go into the textbook if you have already done the testing. So there's going to be four stages to my session. First, we'll look at learner skills and have an idea about what skills do our young learners need for the future. Then I'll give you some ideas about why project-based learning is useful for these skills and some ideas that I have used in my own classes of using projects in the classroom. Then we will have a chance to share any projects that we have been doing with our own students that might be relevant that other people can also make use of. And there'll be a little bit of time at the end of the session to ask any questions if you have any. So first, here you have the QR code for a Mentimeter, which if you were in Glenn's plenary earlier, you'll know that he mentioned this. He used a different site that is similar, WooClap, but we'll be using Mentimeter today. And I can also send you the link if it will let me. One thing. Yes. Okay, so the link is also in the chat box for everyone now. And so in that Mentimeter, can you enter words, ideas of what skills our learners need? Could have a screen which looks something like this. Yes, critical thinking, technical literacy, problem solving, comprehension, social. I'll give you a couple of minutes to add any other skills that you think of young learners need. Communication skills, exactly. Problem solving, very important. Comprehension. Anything else people would like to add? Okay, so there are some great ideas on that Mentimeter. Some of them were mentioned here. These are the four C's, which I'm sure many of you are already aware of. Communication, collaboration, critical thinking, and creativity are all aspects that are important for our learners to develop, which many of you mentioned in the Mentimeter. And these are all skills that can be fostered through project work. So project-based learning, I have some 4 quotes here from different experts in ELT. The project work, children are motivated to communicate and collaborate, making language learning a real-world experience. So going back to what Neri was mentioning in her session before. Project-based learning allows young learners to develop language skills in context. So they can use the language that they have learned throughout the year in real life situations. Again, going back to what Mary was saying is important. And fostering creativity, collaboration, and critical thinking. It provides meaningful context for language use, motivating learners, and encouraging active engagement. So it can make things a little bit more exciting than the typical day-to-day textbook work, especially if you're preparing students for tests and exams, or you have finished tests and exams. It's a great way of doing something a little bit more fun, or helping learners to review content in a more enjoyable way. And when children participate in projects, they develop not only language skills, but also social and cognitive skills. Somebody mentioned social skills before, that are crucial for their overall development. So there are 3 categories that we could split project work into. Theme-based projects, so for example, an idea of a future world. Skill-focused projects, for example, digital storytelling, either through video content or images. And reflection projects, so as I mentioned before, year in review type activities. And in many course books, they come with projects already provided for you to use. These projects quite often, I know that when I'm teaching, can be skipped throughout the year because perhaps you don't have enough time to cover all of the content in your course book. And so these tend to be the areas that get left out when we are planning our lessons. But these are a great way of reviewing content and making things a little bit more fun. So if you're stuck for ideas of what projects you can do exactly, I know, for example, in the Superminds books and the Own It books that I use at IH Bielsko, there's usually a project at the end of every unit or at the end of every 2 units, which consolidates the target language for those units. Here we have an example of a summer camp project. We have the context of which summer camp is for you. And then it invites learners to create a poster based around summer camp of a country, in a country of their choosing. This can be adapted as well. I know when I attended a conference at IH Torren with Glenn a couple of years ago, Christopher Rowlands, the plenary speaker at the time, said that he often will get his students to plan his holidays for him at the end of the year, if he has a destination in mind, and get them to do the research and create a presentation in groups based on that. And so with any project, it's the typical structure that you need to follow. Of course, to begin with, you need to engage your students, provide some kind of stimulus and a model, an example of what you are expecting them to do, what you are hoping them to achieve by the end of the project. Then giving them some time to explore and plan what they would like to do and do research into whatever topic it may be. This is more for the older learners, maybe 10 and above. The older and higher level they are, the more research is going to be done for the project. Then, of course, giving them time to produce and create their projects, and something that sometimes is forgotten, presenting their project, depending on what it is. This could be an oral presentation, but we'll have a look at some examples of projects now for different age groups and how they might be used. Before we do that, though, there are some key considerations for each of the projects, and when you are explaining and giving instructions for your project to your classes. Scaffolding is incredibly important, especially with younger and low-level learners. The younger and lower level they are, the more you're going to need to scaffold your instructions and stage the stages of what you expect them to do. You can't give them everything all at once. Authenticity. So going back to what Mary was saying in her presentation, making it real world and something that they can relate to, something that they find enjoyable. What is the language focus of the project? And sometimes, but not always, it may involve collaboration. Some projects may be solo work. In other situations, it might be more group work, depending on the objective of the project. And then differentiation. I don't know the majority of your teaching environments, but I know from my own experience, sometimes you have students that are all the same level, and sometimes there is a vast difference in the level of your students in the classroom. So knowing how to adapt the project for those different learner needs. So the first idea that I have to give you that you could use in your classes is bookmaking. So this is from a project that I did at IH Bielsko last year with my 6 to 9-year-old students. They were all pre-A1 level starter students. And this project took between 2 to 4 lessons with 1 book per topic. And so this is an individual project where the learners have the opportunity to be creative by making a book and doing some drawing, but also use the language from the whole of the year to reflect on activities that they do each month. So because of the level of the students here, the language is predominantly present simple with a little bit of present continuous. But the idea was that once the students had made the books, this would be the first stage, and then each page would be divided for a month of the year. And they would reflect on what they like to do during those months of the year, draw a picture for each of those months, and then using those pictures, formulate what they want to write down in English about what they enjoy doing during those months. Now, before the writing is put into the book, it's always a good idea to have them write it in their notebook first. This way, you get a chance to check the language for any mistakes. And then once you have corrected their language, it can be added into the final. But this can take several lessons to do, and the kids have a lot of fun making the book. And then once they finish their books, they have the opportunity to present what they have included in the book and tell the rest of the class about what they enjoy doing and use the language they are capable of using to explain that. The second idea I have here is poster or collage making, again, for the same age group and same level students. Some of these students were slightly lower level than the ones in the previous class. And again, this is a great way to review language that learners have learned throughout the year in different topics. At this level, typically the units are colors, numbers, animals, places in town, for example. And so this project in particular was for my favorite things, but this could also be easily adapted in different ways. In the chat box, can anyone give me an idea of how this could be adapted? If you think about your own learners and your own course books that you use with your students, how could you adapt this in a way that could not necessarily be about favorite things, but how can you use posters and collage making? Yes, it could be used to practice the past simple for the bookmaking, especially if they're slightly higher level students and they have already covered the past simple. That would be a good way to do it. My holiday, yes, past simple or future, so planning things for the future or things in the past. Any other ideas? Yes, my dream future for older students could also be a good idea. An imaginary world, yes, or a perfect school. So there's an idea that is coming up later, actually. Thank you, Catherine. So let's move on to the next one then, which is create a country. So on theme with what Catherine has just suggested. So it could be create a country, create an imaginary world, create a perfect school. And this can either be done as a solo project or in groups, depending on the size of your classes. I generally recommend this for slightly older students, so age 10 or above, and at least an A2 level, a pre-intermediate level, so that they have enough language to explain everything that they would like to. And this typically takes between 1 to 2 lessons to do, and you can use it for a variety of things. So when with Create a Country, for example, the students can think up what is going to be the country's emblem, what is going to be the country's flag, what are going to be the laws of the country. Also, if there is a song, you could use the idea from Glenn's presentation earlier about creating a song for the country. What are using the laws of the country and the emblem and the animal that they have created. Most countries also have a national flower, so there are ways for students to explore a variety of language and get really creative with what they can imagine their country or their world would be like. And this can be adapted for perfect school as well. Okay. Next, so this activity is one that I have used more with older teenage students, but it's one that could be adapted for younger learners as well. So is everyone familiar with Dragon's Den or Shark Tank, as it's known in the US? You can just write yes or no in the chat box. Thank you, Catherine. Okay, so for those, in case you're not familiar with Dragon's Den or Shark Tank, it's a TV show in the UK. In the UK, in both shows, it's a selection of well-known or like fairly well-known businessmen who are given a presentation on an invention, and the person giving the presentation is looking for money for funding to be able to make that invention a reality and sell it to make more money. So this is one that I usually do with my older learners, with the teenagers, and generally when they have a higher level of English. It can be done generally over 2 to 4 lessons. Also, starting off by showing them an example of Shark Tank or Dragon's Den in the first classroom, and using that as a listening task for them to extract language that they might want to use in their own presentations. And then what I usually do is I will put the students into groups of 4. Again, it depends on the size of the class, but generally groups of 3 or 4. And within that group, they have to come up with an invention of their own that they want to present to the rest of the class. And then the teacher decides which is the best invention. I have also done this when I was teaching in China, where I had much larger classes of around 40 students. And in Chinese culture, where it's not so popular to want to speak out in class, I made it a rule that everyone in the group had to say something as part of the presentation. The presentation needed to be about 1 or 2 minutes long, and everyone needed to speak for about 30 seconds of the presentation to make sure that everybody was practicing their English. But also with those classes where I had students who were always the ones answering questions in my class, I made them the dragon or the shark. So they were the ones asking the students questions about their inventions. They needed to ask follow-up questions to get more information. And then they were the ones deciding if their invention was worthy of funding, fake funding, of course, not real money. And so that way, the stronger students wouldn't dominate the activity, and it gave the weaker students more of an opportunity to practice their speaking skills that perhaps they hadn't been able to in previous classes. And I unfortunately don't have any pictures, examples of when I did this in China, but I got AI to help me create this picture of this homework from robots that my students came up with, that quite a lot of them had the idea of creating a homework robot or something similar, where the robot would help them with their homework or would automatically print things out for them. This was back in 2016, so AI was not a thing then. So their dreams have kind of come true now if they are hoping to have a robot that will create their homework for them. But so it allows the learners to be creative as much as possible. So the students that I'm talking about here were generally between 15 and 17 years old. How could this be adapted for younger learners? Could you send me some ideas in the chat box? And also for lower level learners. Thinking more about maybe 8 years old, 9 years old, 10 years old, rather and to 12 years old, rather than teenage. Any suggestions? So an idea that I've had for doing this with much younger, lower level learners is for them to invent their own toy so that they would like to exist to play with. Catherine says they have to design something specific, like such as a robot that does something special. Yes, exactly. So giving them more specific instructions of what you expect from them, because the younger they are, generally they need a little bit more scaffolding and a bit more help with what they need. Okay. The next idea then is a comic strip or storyboard. And this can be a theme-based project. You can be very specific with what you want the story to be, or the comic strip to be about. In this case, it was for Halloween, and you can use these kind of story cubes to help with the generating of ideas for the story for your learners if they don't have any ideas themselves. And something that they do on their own, it can be done with kids from 8 years and older and from around A1 and above, and generally takes between 1 to 2 lessons. And so you would start off by showing them an example of a comic strip or a storyboard, and then getting them to roll the dice to help generate sentences for them for their storyboard. Then, before you give them the comic book worksheets, these ones I found on Twinkle, and I believe they were free also. It's a free resource on Twinkle to use. Before you do that, again, in their notebook, get them to plan what they are going to, what they want their story to be about, thinking about a beginning, a middle, and an end to the story. And this gives the learners an opportunity to ask you questions in case there's any vocabulary that they are unsure of that they want to include in the story, so that they can write that down in their book before they transform it into a comic strip or a story. Can anyone think of how else this comic strip or storyboard could be used, especially for older learners, maybe around 12, 13, or even older? Mixing past simple with past continuous, yes. And knowing when to use one and when to use the other, especially with A2 students and above. Any other ideas? Yes, exactly. They can be used to summarize information. Maybe you've read a story or you've watched a video and you want them to summarize it. They could be used in that way. Great idea. Any other ideas? Yes, past simple, present perfect, says Catherine. Story about their favorite TV character or favorite superhero. Yes, this way it makes it more personalized to them about their interests and what they like to talk about or watch. Great. Yes, they can invent the character too, exactly. So they have a lot of freedom to be creative with these comic strips and storyboards. Imagine a story about future creation. Yes, also thinking about what could exist in the future. Great ideas. Another way that it could be used, especially with learners who are more likely to have access to their phones, for example. This is a lesson plan from ESL Brains that I used while I was teaching summer school in the UK a couple of years ago. And actually, I did the summer school with Stephen Tarbuck, who is doing the other talk right now. So he's also familiar with this lesson plan, as we used it with a few of our different classes. And so you can use the storyboard from the previous activity as the planning stage for creating a movie trailer. So this is a lesson plan on ESL Brains. I don't know if it's going to let me open it. There we go. Unfortunately, this lesson plan is not free to use, but it does have a summary of the lesson plan so that you can create your own more detailed lesson plan from it. And so you start off by showing the students an age-appropriate trailer and level-appropriate trailer. Of course, if it's in English, which it should be, some of the language is going to be a little bit too difficult for them, but it's more about the visuals of the trailer than anything. And using that trailer and the storyboard that they have created or subsequently made after watching the trailer in group, the students can then make their own movie trailer, either using an app that they're familiar with, such as TikTok or Instagram or something like this, or on something more classroom friendly, such as Canva, which I will show you a little bit later. This is, if you're not aware what Canva is, it's a presentation tool, but it's also a way of creating multitude of different things, which I will show you a little bit later. And then they have to write a script for that movie trailer. And again, like I do with Dragon and Zen, the learners have to all participate in the speaking part of the trailer. They have to say something at least. As it's a movie trailer, it tends to be a little bit shorter, so only probably around 1 minute long maximum, between 30 seconds and 1 minute. But everyone in their group has to say something in the movie trailer. This allows the learners to be more creative and work together, and it's a little bit more collaborative for those slightly older learners. There's also this resource on British Council websites. Which is a video exchange project. So in the same way, you can use the storyboards that and the comic strip as your planning stage. And then they can create videos to give to their other students. And of course, with both of these classes, the final stage would be to present the trailers. And can anyone think of a way in the presentation stage of when you're presenting these trailers, or even with some of the previous tasks, depending on the age and level of the learners, of course, how can we make it more interactive with our learners and ensure that everyone is watching the trailers? How can we ensure that our learners are watching and paying attention to other groups, presentations, trailers, and so on? Catherine says, give them a task to do while they watch. Yes, true or false questions or a short quiz. Yes, this is a good idea. Mason says, ask them to answer a question by interactively watching the video, like counting a number of things. Yes, this could also work if you have taken the trailers and presentations from the students before you present them to the rest of the class. And you can identify things that they need to watch out for in each other's presentations and trailers. Any other ideas? Catherine also says, all they have to give feedback, 2 positives and a question. Yes, exactly. This is something that I typically do with this task and also with the Dragon's Den task, especially if I'm the one being the judge of which one is best. I get the learners to really pay attention to the trailer and analyze it themselves. What did they like about the trailer? What did they like about the invention or the presentation? What are the positives about the language that they used? Is there anything that they could improve on that they noticed that their peers perhaps made a slight mistake somewhere, and get them to peer correct for each other? Let's see what else we have here. Questioner, note taker, feedback giver. Yes, exactly. It could be a jigsaw watch if you have enough students, space. Students watch different trailers and report back to their group. Yes, exactly. So if you have 4 groups and you have 4 people in each group, or 5 groups and 4 people in each group, those 4 people from your group go watch a different trailer and then report back to each other. Great idea. Yes, exactly. And this way it makes it more collaborative and more communicative as well. Okay, next idea then is board games. So the picture here is a Monopoly board I made myself with help from, actually it was my CAE students who were all aged between 15 and 19 at IH Bielsko. And together we created our own Monopoly boards. So I started off by having the students decide what each color of the Monopoly board was going to be. I said that they were going to make a Poland-based Monopoly board, and that they had to decide which cities were going to represent each country. They decided that what would usually be the top 2 squares were going to be Bielsko and Biała, and put Warsaw, the capital city, as a brown one. So it allows them to give you an idea of how they feel about different places in Poland, and personalize the board for themselves. Now, I made the board for them once I had all of the information they provided me, but you could also have your learners make the board. If you have a particularly artsy student in your class, or a group of particularly artsy students in your class, they could be the ones to make the board for this. And then with the community chess cards and the chance cards, each of the students had to make 3 cards for each, And on each card, the learners have to write a question that needs to be answered when it is drawn. So for this class, it was used for, in particular, C1 advanced use of English questions as a review before the exam. And they used questions from their textbook to create these tasks. So it wasn't that they had to create their own CAE tasks, but rather draw on content from the coursebook that they had covered throughout the year and review things with extra focus, especially on anything that was covered earlier in the year that perhaps they had forgotten more recently. So how could this be adapted for lower level and younger learners? Because I believe that the Monopoly could be used for learners as young as 10 and as low as A2, but it would need to be adapted for their level. And does anyone have any ideas of any other board games that their learners could create? So Mason says, English quiz questions adapted to their level, Snakes and Ladders being another board game. Yes, exactly. So it could be simple comprehension questions or communicative questions that you put on the cards that they have to answer when they draw the cards. Snakes and Ladders, yes, could also be adapted in this way. If you answer the question wrong, you have to go down the snake. If you get it right, you get to stay where you are. Any other ideas? Give it a different theme, maybe their city or a sport that they are into. The community chess chance cards could be questions, speaking topics, or gap fills from the book, irregular verb challenges. Yes, exactly. Good examples. Another idea which helps involve the whole class is to create a class magazine. So again, on the British Council website, there is this resource for making a class magazine. But there are also some online resources that you can use on Canva. Again, I'm going to do a disclaimer. I'm not sponsored by Canva. I just love Canva and try to use it as much as I can. But making a class magazine is a great way for learners to write articles about things that they are interested in and that they want to share with other people, and really personalizes the project for them. So you can use this resource from teaching English, but also through Canva, it's possible to make an online zine. So Canva, for the most part, is free. Some features are only available in the premium, but as you can see from the screenshot, the magazine ones are what's the word? Available for everyone. And so it's a great resource that you can use with your learners. If I show you my own Canva here, so if I want them to make a magazine, you can create a blank magazine. You can look for the kind of theme that they want, and you could have a Canva account that you provide your learners to use, and they each create their own page and add it into the project at their own pace. It's reopening again for me. But there's many other ways that this can be used as well. As I said before, it can be used for making videos and other online content as well. So these are my own projects, but if I look at the templates and I go to video, you can make YouTube style videos, mobile form videos, and so on. And it will give you fancy font and graphics that they can use in their video to make it more exciting for their trailer. Oh, it's not letting me move on. Okay, so as we're slowly running out of time, if you can scan the QR codes or go to this address, so Padlet Zoe Harris 91 project-based learning, and the password is the 4Cs. It should take you to this page. And I will also share the link in the chat box. So the password is the 4Cs. If you could add your own ideas to the Padlet, perhaps you have some projects that you have done in your own classes that you think others might have a good idea, would be a good idea for others to use in their classes as well. Or perhaps the ideas I shared in this workshop have given you ideas also based on your own learners. So yes, at the moment we have exam review posters. Yeah, posters for reviewing for exams is a great way to practice the language that they have learned throughout the year. A good way to do it is that you could assign different language points to each learner that they have to create the poster for and then present to the rest of the class so that everyone is doing something a little bit different. It says the password is incorrect. Okay, let me put it here. Let me just double check that the password is correct because it should be. Yes. Ah, it's a capital C. That's why. Like this. Restaurant menu creation, yes, also a good idea, way of reviewing food language in particular, and it could then be used later on for a kind of role play where the learners have to go and order food in a restaurant, perhaps, and this makes it more of a real life situation for them if they end up in an English speaking country or a country where they only speak English or able to speak English. Social media, the students watch key parts of the document, the social dilemma, and then create a booklet, storyboard, poster, etc., detailing what they have learned and the side effects of social media addiction. Yes, great idea for those slightly older young learners in particular. Okay, I think my time has come to an end now.
or is coming to an end at least.
Hey, thank you, Zoe.
Thank you.
Is there anything else
Uh,
that you want to say?
Nothing else. If anyone has any questions, as we run out of time, you can contact me via my email address here or via LinkedIn. Thank you.
Well, thank you for everything. And
Thank you.
also, I've got the link to a survey that I'm putting in the chat here if you would like to do the survey and get an attendance certificate. So yeah, so thank you for everything. And we'll take another 5-minute break, and then I will make Miss Courtney Bailey the co-host and introduce her.